everybody, welcome back to Bow and Arrow Garage. Today I'm going to be finishing up plumbing the fuel system on the C3 Corvette from the filter regulator up to the engine. And before I get started, I wanted to correct a mistake I made when I was plumbing the filter regulator. So I made a mistake that a lot of people make, and basically I just went online and I was following some diagrams that I found online, and they ended up being incorrect. So instead of doing that, the best thing to do is just understand how this thing works. And it is pretty simple. All you have to do is blow through the lines. The one that basically blows through is your feed line, and the other is your return. So if you blow on the center, you get absolutely nothing out of the outlet. But if you blow on the other one, you can see that you get pressure through it. So basically, at the end of the day, the center is your return to your fuel tank. The other one is your feed line through your regulator and going out to your system. So basically, I just wanted to correct that mistake. And with that being said, we're going to jump to the video and we'll get this thing finished up. So I've finally figured out how I'm going to route my fuel feed hose going up to my engine. So this is one section of it. I'm going to do it in a couple of sections, and the reason being is because it's going to have to go over the frame kick up and then come down and then shoot forward under the body. Anyways, trying to get this fuel system somewhat put together, and then we'll be able to move on from there. And then we'll see if we can get this thing running. So I don't know if I'll be able to get any of this footage trying to get this hose snaked back through. But basically this is where the existing hard line used to route through. And you just gotta kind of work it in. And then it's gonna run along the top of this frame rail. So I'm gonna have to crawl into the car. You can see where the hose came through, right in front of the brake hose right there, or the brake cable I should say, the emergency brake cable. That is not where I want it. It's got to go in front of this cross member. So I'm going to have to sneak it back up. And it's just a back and forth until we get that sweet spot. So as you can see, I got the line fished into the correct position. You can see my 90 where the line transitions down along the frame rail of the car. And there it shoots forward under the transmission cross member cutout. And it continues along the frame rail. And it transitions up to another 90. And that's where it goes up into the engine bay, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But I've got it clamped here. I still need to get some clamps to clamp it in the back, but I'm pretty happy with the routing for the most part. So I think we're well on our way here. So if you look right in the middle of the screen, you can see where that 90 transitions back up along the firewall, and it goes back behind this heat shield right here. And then it comes up behind the engine and the firewall. And routes over to the fuel rail. I'm going to go over to the other side just to kind of give a better idea of what I did. So you can see the quick disconnect fitting connected to the fuel rail, and then the line routes down behind the engine, between the engine and the firewall. And you can see that I have another hose around it on the outside just for chafe protection. Just there's a lot of vibrations and different things going on back here, so I wanted to make sure the line doesn't get damaged. So anyways, that's it for the fuel line. We just got some clamping, some minor stuff to do just to tidy everything up, but the fuel line is routed from the engine fuel rail all the way back to my fuel regulator. So that's going to be it for the fuel line for now. Like I said, I've got some minor clamping and just little things I need to clean up along the way, but I am pretty much done with the fuel line. So now what I want to get into is actually the water pump. I've got some pretty major issues on the water pump. So I'll show you some of the things I bought. I thought it was going to be a simple thing. I showed in the last video the modification of the existing water pump. And like I said, I was going to hold off on putting the fittings for the heater hose on for now. But I actually may need those. I'm still doing research, but I'll kind of turn the camera around. I'll show you where I'm at, show you what I've got going on, and hopefully I can come to a solution on it and not have to purchase a whole new water pump. But it's kind of leaning that way. But I'll show you where I'm at, and we'll work through this together. Okay, so I got the Mr. Gasket water neck, the straight water neck. It's the 2671 NA, and I also got the GMLS 180 degree thermostat. It's a 6368. Hopefully this fits. So the water neck is going to work, but unfortunately this thermostat is not going to work. It's quite a bit taller than the other one. Everything else looks like it would fit, but this is not going to work, so I'm going to have to do some more research. And really, honestly, that's a big part of what you have to deal with when you're doing a swap like this. Just figuring out what'll work, what won't work, and every now and then you're going to buy parts that just don't fit. So this is the gist of the problem. First of all, you can see that this thermostat is much taller than the stock LS1 thermostat. The filler neck also will probably work, but there might be an issue with that also. So basically, at the end of the day, the thermostat from an 04 GTO will fit in this filler neck, and it is approximately the same height as this. But the question is not whether it'll fit in here, but whether this seal will seal in the actual water pump, because the water pump opening is made a little bit larger to accommodate these ears on this integral style thermostat housing. The other issue comes from the way these things are manufactured. If you notice on the old integral style thermostat housing, that the thermostat itself, this plate, is solid. On the LS2, LS7, which they said it would work with the LS1 if you used a straight water neck, it has these holes in it. And I'll show here in a few minutes that on the GTO, the 04 GTO, it actually has some raised areas. And the purpose of this versus this is that if you're running a heater core, this will serve to block off that inner diameter, and it'll basically force the water through your heater, core, I should say. And so basically the hot water coming from your block will go through the heater core, and then it will go back to this heater motor on your thermostat, and it'll open the motor. But if you have this with the heater core fittings plugged off like I have, then you're going to need one of these bypass thermostats that either have the holes in it or have some provision to allow water to get on the front side of this, because this would completely block it off and you would never get water to your heater motor, and therefore your thermostat wouldn't activate. So it's crucial that if you're going to run your if you're going to run your water pump blocked off like I am, you have to have a bypass style thermostat. And the other important thing is that if you're going to plug these off, there were several people saying that it was acceptable to just loop this. Obviously it would not work on this car because of the interference with the upper control arm, but on other LS swaps you could possibly do that without running a heater core. And a lot of people were saying they just looped a hose from the front to the back. But like I said before, that plate serves to basically block this thing off and force the water to go through your heater, not only your heater core, but also through your engine.
And if you just loop that, it could cause it basically just to cycle just around and never force the water into your engine and actually cause your engine to overheat. So you definitely don't want that scenario. So if you're going to run these blocked off, or if you're not going to run a heater core, you definitely do not want to just loop this thing. You want to actually block them off somehow, but then you want to run a bypass style thermostat. Okay guys, today is Saturday and I'm going to go ahead and jump into working on this wiring harness. But before I do, I want to give an update on the water pump. So I was kind of studying out how the water pump actually works, because that was kind of the bulk of the confusion. Does the thermostat, is it the inlet to the water pump, or does it open and let water flow out through your radiator? And it turns out on the LS engines that it is actually the inlet to the water pump. So the cold water flows from the radiator, and once the thermostat opens, it allows the water to flow into the pump basically, where then it pushes it out through the heads. It's an independent system on both sides. It's got an inlet. The rectangular ports on your engine are the inlet, and then the circular ports are the outlet. So the water goes in through the rectangular ports, it cools off the heads, comes back out, and then it's pushed back through the radiator. So basically I think I'm going to be okay as far as that goes. The only question is now whether the thermostat housing is going to seal against the larger opening that was required for the basically bridge that held the thermostat in the integral unit. If it doesn't seal, then obviously I will have to go back and buy another water pump. But that's going to be down the road. I think this is going to get me at least to where I can start the car, and I will have some water flowing. Hopefully it's not leaking everywhere, but we'll find that out when the time comes to start the engine. But as for now, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this wire harness, and then we'll see how far we can get on it. All right, this is the mess that would be considered the wire harness. It can look pretty intimidating, but it's one of those things where they say, you know, how do you eat an elephant? You just take one bite at a time. So we're going to jump into this elephant. We're going to get this thing going. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the computer and get it out of the way. I don't need it attached right now. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this EGR stuff. That's all going to be deleted. So I'm going to get into that real quick, and then we'll start kind of stringing this thing out and get to work on it. So this is kind of just an example of what we do to kind of pare down the wire harness. This is the oil level sensing connector, and it goes to the blue PCM connector, pin 70. So you depin it, and then I just snip the wire off and pull it through. You pull the wire that goes to the sensor, and then the other one is a ground, and you just pull it back to where it ties into the ground and snip it off. So anyways, I'm gonna just do that a bunch more times, and we'll get this thing pared down, and then we'll start getting it set up to get in the car. So this is the EGR solenoid wire harness pigtail, and it's got 5 wires going to it. And the instructions tell me to remove on the blue connector, 47 gray, 5-volt reference for the EGR from a 99 to a 2000. It came out of a 99, so it also tells you to remove the 55 pin. It's a brown wire, and it's your EGR pintle position sensor signal. And then it tells you to remove on the red connector pin 41 gray EGR solenoid ground from 99 to 2000. But the pigtail had two other wires. It had on the red connector, it had pin 7, and it was a red wire, but in the instructions it said not used. And the same thing on the blue connector for pin 41, there was a black wire on that pigtail, and it says it was not used. So I went ahead and pulled them out, but I keep everything together. I've got the pigtail here with all the wires in it, just in case. I'm obviously not going back with EGR on this car, so I don't see what the purpose of those two wires were, but they weren't connected to anything else. But I'm just going to hold on to it just in case. That's just the way I am. So anyways, just little things that you run into when you're doing this. And in case I didn't mention it earlier, I am using lt1swap.com. There is just an abundance of information over there. It's very, very helpful. I wouldn't be able to do this without it, but trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's just painstaking. You have to pay attention to what you're doing, and you can do it. As you can see, this is a pretty messy process, and it can be pretty overwhelming at times, but just follow through, be very OCD, and you end up getting it. But it's a mess right now, but we'll get it all together here in a little bit. Okay guys, I've been out here for several hours, still working on this thing. Found some interesting stuff. I guess this is the skip shift control. I don't know if you can see, but I guess the early F-bodies had skip shift, so if you were driving around the city at certain, I guess at certain speeds and just different parameters, that basically the computer would make you shift from first to fourth gear. And so apparently somebody figured out a way to manipulate that on their own. And I'm going to go ahead and remove these wires. And just trying to figure all this mess out. It is it's a job, but it's actually pretty cool when you get into doing it. So I figured this out because I was trying to check continuity from the gray wire to the blue 79 pin, and I was actually getting continuity on the pink wire, and then I untaped this and I figured out why. So anyways, so that's something, I guess, if it hasn't already been tuned out of the computer, I will have to tune it out when I get to doing the tune. But anyways, that's pretty much it. And I'm still, like I said, I'm still working on it. It's a mess. Anyways, like I said, it's just kind of part of it. This is definitely a job, but I really think that if you take your time, you can get in here and anybody can do it. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to jump back into it and have some more fun. Okay folks, I'm making some slow but steady progress. I've got the oxygen sensor wiring pretty much complete, and the vehicle speed sensor. I am probably going to have to modify the speed sensor connector. I don't know which one came with the car right now, but right now I'm focusing on the engine wire harness. I left a little bit of extra wire, so if I have to cut it down and solder it into the connector that came with the transmission, I'll do that, and that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. But anyways, and I may have to redo my wire loom and different things, but at the end of the day, I wanted to get that kind of wrapped up, and then I'm going to jump to the next section and then the next section. So I think I've got all of my pinouts removed from the red and blue connectors, and so now I've got to deal with all the little connectors like these guys. I've already addressed some of the issues, as you can see. So that's my speed sensor, but this is the firewall connector here, and all of these things have to be addressed, and I'm just going through it slowly and methodically. So I'm trying to get a good video of just how these pins are removed. So first of all, you have these covers, The red ones I think I talked about were broken. But to get, let's see, to get this cover off, if you look in here, there is a white keeper, and you basically are just going to push that in, and you're going to pull this thing up, and then you have another one on the other side. And I don't know if I'm getting this on video or not, but, and then you just slide that up. So I kind of give you a better idea of what you're pushing in this white keeper here. So there's a few reasons I was taking those covers off. I'm done with my pinouts, but there's a few things I need to do. First of all, on this map sensor, I need to make sure that the wiring is long enough to fit, or to reach, I should say, the top of the Trailblazer SS intake where the map sensor plugs in. On the 99 Camaro, it was in the back of the intake manifold, and now this one's on the top. The manifold's taller and it's in the center. So basically, if you look at this map sensor wiring, this gray wire is intertwined around some of the other wires. So I'm going to unpin it and just bring it around so that I have some slack, and then I'll repin it. So this is my blue connector. See, I labeled it blue. And so I want to find pin 48. So this top row, you can see there's some numbers. It's 1 through 20, 21 through 40, and then 41 through 60, and then 61 through 80. So it's going to be on this lower row, and it's going to be 48. So you can see, and there's not a lot of slack in here. See if I can get the, so my pin is this gray wire right by this white tab here. That's blue 48. And I wanted to show you, so how I get these out. So that's 41 where there is no pin, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, and 48. So what I normally do is I just take a pick, and I'm trying to do this and make sure I keep it in the camera shot, so forgive me if I mess it up here. See that lock that locks the pin in place? You just got to kind of pull it up a little bit. You don't want to pry too hard. You don't want to break it. And then you just take the pin and you kind of grab it on the side and pull it up and push at the same time. It's the best way I've found to get it out. You can see it's pushed halfway out, and then you want to go back here in the back. And I always try to make sure that there are no wires in the way, because I've had these actually come out and the metal clip cut another wire. So just pull it straight out. And make sure that it's not locked. You don't want to damage anything. All right. And when we're done, we're going to put it right back in there. But there it is. Now I'm just going to feed it back to where it was wrapped around the rest of the wiring, and then I'm going to reroute it just to give me some slack. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do on my connectors is these wires right here.
they are the wires that require an external connection in order for the computer to work. And if you notice, a couple of them are pretty short. You got those two there. This pink one is a little bit longer. The orange power wire is a little bit short. And then this white one here is pretty short. So especially with the dark blue, the green with the white stripe, I'm sorry, the green without the white stripe, and the white, I am going to replace them with some of the wiring that I pulled out of the wire harness. So as you can see, they already have the pins. So I'm just going to do a 1-for-1 swap. That way I have these longer wires, and I'm not putting a bunch of splices in these wires with the chance of them basically, you know, having a connectivity issue down the road. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and just do them one by one. I'm going to make sure that I pull one and put the other one right back in its place. So I don't know if you guys remember from the last video, or maybe even the video before, I talked about doing the wire harness on my wife's kitchen table. And well, she's on vacation right now, so what she doesn't know won't hurt her. So I'm going to have to do a hashtag, don't tell Michelle. I am basically to the point now where I just need to go ahead and put it in the car and figure out where I'm going to mount the computer. And then I can figure out all this other stuff. I got to make sure that my map sensor wiring is long enough. Got to basically see where my crank position sensor is going to branch off the harness over here somewhere. And then this, I believe, is my cam. Yep, cam position sensor. And so that's kind of how it's going to sit in the car somewhat. There are the grounds. And then this should be the knock sensor, if I remember correctly. Here. I thought I had labeled it, but anyways, I do think that's the knock sensor. Anyways, so it's coming along quite well. I've got all the wires pulled out that need to be pulled out. I've got everything basically where I think it's going to go. Like I said, I just need to put it on the engine, make sure everything reaches, and then I can go ahead and finish up my loom and everything.
So I got the computer mounted here on the right hand wheel well. It was almost actually perfect. There was a little kick out that pretty much matched the computer mount tray. So so I was able to mount it right there. I'm gonna have to find something to do at the bottom. It's just got a little bit of a rock to it. But I think that's actually going to be pretty much perfect. Looking at my harness, everything looks pretty good. I've decided I was going to try to just use the map harness as is and cut it back, pull it back into the wire harness toward the computer a little bit more, and it would actually reach. But I went ahead and purchased a harness extension, so it's 24 inches, so that should be here. So then I'll end up just running my harness down along the main harness and up here, so it'll tie in probably somewhere right around in here. I also ordered the adapter harnesses for the fuel injectors, so that should be coming in also with the map harness. Everything else looks pretty good. I'm gonna get down. I'm gonna go ahead and take the wire harness back out, and I'm gonna go ahead and loom this area up. I've just got all my extensions for my external power connections here. That's going to be the last thing I end up doing. I just wanted to test fit this. I wanted to make sure everything else was going to work, and it looks like it is. And I'm going to crawl under here and make sure that the crank position sensor harness is fine, and figure out where I'm going to loom that from. And I'm definitely going to try to pull this. Let me get this light situated here. I'm going to pull this back away from the headers as much as possible. Get the just the max distance so that it doesn't overheat. And besides that, though, it looks pretty good. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and just check that crank position sensor wiring and make sure that it fits in there really good. And then I'll go ahead and pull the harness back out and loom up everything that in basically its place, because everything else I think is good to go. Okay guys, I got the wire harness installed in the car. Obviously I still need my throttle body. I got the alternator connected, the engine coolant temp sensor. I ordered the pigtail harnesses I think I mentioned earlier that go from, I think they're called Jetronic, to the US car style of fuel injectors that I've got here. I've got my knock sensors hooked up. I still haven't connected my, put a bolt through my ground yet. Same thing here on the other side. I'm waiting for my pigtail harnesses. I've got that. I've got my extension harness for the map sensor on the way. I don't know if this map sensor is going to work, but I'll have to talk to my tuner about that. All in all, it came out pretty decent. Here's the loom, comes down, and the computer sits down here. I showed a better video of that earlier. This is actually all the wires that require an external connection. So I've still got to finish that up. That'll be my last thing. This is the map sensor. Actually, it came out pretty decent. I got my starter, my crank position sensor behind the starter hooked up. I've got the trigger for the starter hooked up somewhat. I kept the connector that came from the Camaro. I'm going to try to find the mating connector to this. If not, I'll just have to solder something in. I hope I left myself enough slack to be able to work in there, but kind of is what it is. I'll get it. Obviously, I've still got to integrate it into the car's wire harness. Here's the purple wire that's going to go to the starter trigger. It's going to connect to that purple wire. So, still got a little bit to do. It'll get a lot cleaner when I get the map sensor and the pigtail harnesses here. Get those hooked up. I was able to hook up my vehicle speed sensor on the transmission. It was great. The LS1 wire harness had the same connector that the Tremec TKX 5-speed came with, so it plugged right in. I'm going to order my throttle body this week, and I think that's it. Maybe throttle body and headers. I do need a radiator still, but I think I might just end up using the old one I have just to kind of get it going, and then we'll go from there. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video, and I apologize for taking so long to put it out. We've just been really busy. I've been working on it here and there, but I've just been super busy with other things, and so I'm finally putting this video out, and I've got to say I've made a lot of progress on the car. It's been just a little bit here and a little bit there, but I'm pretty happy about where I'm at. I've got the wire harness in the car pretty much permanently, at least the engine wire harness. It's going to be a little bit of time before I get everything integrated into the vehicle wire harness, but you know, I really am trying to get this thing running within the next couple of weeks. So I've got a couple of things on order. I've got to get my throttle body on order. I've got to make a decision on my headers. I've got to look at my budget and see where we're at on that. And then we're really getting close though. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get inside and get this video edited and try to get it out tonight. And hopefully I can get you some good footage of what I did. We'll go from here, and like I said, in the next few weeks the plan is to try to get this thing running. So with that being said, I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please make sure to like the video, share it with somebody you know, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we hope to see you again next time. Have a great night.